Hello, Maurieo! Maurieo Vlogs number 157, 2017, Daylight Saving. Hello, welcome. Well, at some ungodly hour this morning, our clocks leapt ahead 1 hour, or they sprung forward as we go into spring. So now we are 12, officially 13 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, whereas yesterday we were only 12 hours ahead. So this gives us extra daylight at the end of the day. There are all sorts of rumours and fallacies associated with this. Of course, the most common curse or con of daylight saving is that it makes your curtains fade. But yes, there's very little evidence to support that. Now, New Zealand in its position is actually, in terms of longitude, only 11.5 hours in front of or ahead of GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. But sometime long ago in the 1930s, before even I was born, there was a Act of Parliament that moved us with half an hour of daylight saving. And after a while, well, after a year of trial, I think, or maybe more, of this daylight's half an hour, they actually decided to go include it all year round. So that we were actually, instead of 11.5 hours ahead of GMT, we became permanently 12 hours ahead of GMT. So now when we introduce daylight saving, which I can remember when it was introduced, we didn't used to have it. It was introduced definitely in my lifetime, and it was a real big deal, particularly because we had analog clocks, so people would forget to jump forward or they'd jump back instead of forward, and there was all sorts of things. But with the introduction, of course, of cell phones and computers and that, where it's automatically programmed in, we don't have quite the same problem of people forgetting to move their clocks forward and getting confused. But we still get the odd person that turns up around this time, an hour early for appointments or an hour late, or however it works, depending whether we're springing forward or leaping back or walking back. So anyway, daylight savings in place, so we've got more daylight at the end of the day, and the jury's still out on the effect on curtains. And so that brings us to today's background, and this guy here looking at his watch. So who is this guy and what is his relevance to today's topic? Obviously there's a little bit of a clue there, but just exactly what the relevance is, that's probably the tricky part, that you may have to look that one up in Google. I can tell you that this guy is definitely a New Zealander, and that he was born in Dunedin. So there you go, a little bit of detective work, finding out who this guy is. Now, yesterday's background was Lewis Carroll, also known, well, that's his pen name, Charles Lutwidge Dodson is his name, and he went also known as Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. But he was also a mathematician and all sorts of other things. So one of the things that he proposed was the Dodson method for voting, which was a way of comparing votes and having a fair voting system along some of the lines of that are used in some countries for transferable voting systems and what have you. So quite a brilliant sort of guy was Charles Lutwidge Dodson, also known as Lewis Carroll. But he did, as one of his achievements was documenting the Dodgson method for voting. So WT got that one yesterday. And so here's today's background, and have a close look there. There's a little written clue there, but a little bit of detective work required. So there we go. The daylight savings firmly in place. A little bit more light at the end of the day, which means I can use natural light for my videos, and I don't have to turn on any artificial light, which interestingly is one of the reasons that daylight saving was introduced, so that we could use more natural sunlight and less artificial sunlight and artificial light, which of course costs money for the power and things. So there's a bit of a savings going on there as one of the things behind daylight saving. So there you go. Brings us to the end of vlog number 157. Cheers. See you.